51-year-old mystery is a big step closer to being solved. Remains found in Isanti County back in 2003 have just been identified thanks to new technology and someone known as an investigative genetic genealogy consultant. Karen Scullen brings us the end to a story that began half a century ago.
For a half century, no one knew if Donald Rindahl was dead or alive. But imagine being that family member who gets that stunning phone call.
It was a random phone call that someone was calling about their brother that they hadn't seen in 51 years. So there was a lot of shock and disbelief at first.
In 2003, human remains were discovered in Isanti County. It was part of a skull. There were several failed attempts to identify the remains, and the case went nowhere. In 2019, Lovering, still with Isanti County, thought new DNA technology might help.
I've kept it on my desk because always trying to figure out, will we ever figure out who this person is?
After 3 different labs still couldn't produce a viable sample, investigators went to Othram Lab in Texas, the only U.S. lab to focus solely on forensic evidence from crime scenes or unidentified remains.
We can get DNA answers from evidence that no one else can work with.
Old, contaminated, or a minute amount of evidence is the norm for Othram, which is what the Isanti case was all about.
We got the evidence, we ran it through our process, it worked the first time, it worked easily, it created a very clean profile.
With a viable sample, genetic genealogy consultant Barbara Ray Venter ran it through 2 genealogy sites and had a distant relative match within 24 hours.
We're looking for people who share DNA with that crime scene DNA.
She then built out a family tree and came up with the name Donald Rindahl.
It's a really good feeling. I think those of us who are working in this area, I think most of us were doing it for the victims and, of course, for the victims' families.
Rindahl was 22 years old in the summer of 1970, told his family he was going to California. He was never seen again. The FBI had said they were looking for him for his involvement in drugs. Well, now the family knows Rindahl's fate, but they don't know much more.
There's a lot of unanswered questions for them. We don't know what happened. We don't know where he was, and we don't know who was involved.
Donald Rindahl was from Ramsey County, last living in New Brighton. Investigators believe there are people who are still alive today who do know what happened to him. Now, as for the genealogy investigator, Barbara Ray Venter, she solved the famous Golden State Killer case in 2018 through the same methodology. And Othram Lab that we mentioned in the piece there, it's the same lab that identified remains found in Texas, that to be Sherry Ann Jarvis. She had been missing. She was from Stillwater and had been missing for 41 years. If you have any information on the Donald Rindahl case, please call the Isanti County Sheriff's Office. In the newsroom, Karen Scullen, Fox 9.